So our scripture today, Matthew 4:19, and he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Now, that seems like a weird thing to say. I don't know about you, but the first time I heard that piece of scripture, I was a kid, and the mental picture I had was a weird one. Jesus with a pole, people in the water. Seemed like a weird game of Marco Polo, and it was not appropriate. I hadn't understood metaphor yet. But even without that, it's kind of a weird thing to say. The whole thing is kind of weird. But as we learn, it's kind of a hallmark of the way that Jesus Christ does the Jesus Christ ministry. He goes to a weird place. He doesn't go to a fancy place. Well, this is kind of the deal, right? This is the story over and over again, isn't it? And he doesn't scold the fishermen who are about to become disciples. He doesn't say, "What are you guys doing? You guys are messing up. I got bigger things to do. Bigger fish to fry," so to speak. He doesn't say, "You guys are in the wrong." He doesn't say, "This place is icky." He doesn't say any of those things. He goes to the people. They don't go to him. He goes to the people and he says, what you're doing right now, what you're good at right now, the thing that you have given your heart to and your life to, we're going to take that and we're not going to throw it away. We're going to uplift it and apply it to changing the world. There's something really important about that idea. That it's not about throwing away what you have on the inside, but rather about applying it to something even bigger. That's the deal. That's the Jesus Christ message in one way or another. Over and over again, you've got something in you right now that can change everything. But it's still a weird thing to say. It's weird in all kinds of ways. I mean, imagine yourself in that situation. Imagine that you were going to build a super team of people who was going to go change the world. I mean, this is the job, right? This is the most important thing. We're going to change the world. We're going to teach everybody. We're going to set everybody free. This is a big job. This is the deal. Now, I don't know about you, but in my mind, if it was me, I'd be putting together a George Clooney super team. It's like, we need a safecracker. We need an acrobat. We need a pickpocket. You need a number of different things. And, throw in Mr. T, because it's not a team without him. And you need the whole thing. A team of experts. But that's not what happened at all. I mean, think about that. He didn't go to learned people. He didn't go to the temple. He didn't go to the mall. He didn't pick people who had their own private jet or any kind of fame or power at all. He went to people who were just fishing. Think about that. There's something really interesting about how that works. It means that mastery, success, readiness, being appropriate for the job at hand comes from a different place. This is a big deal. I mean, who would you ask to help you in this journey? Now, there is a level at which Jesus does say, leave your nets. You know that quote. And in fact, I got to tell you, in my family, that is something that we say to each other now and again. Leave your nets. And I bet you can imagine what it means. When you tell somebody to leave your nets, what you're saying is, stop trusting stuff outside yourself. You know what I mean? Jesus tells the disciples, you've got something inside of you that can be applied to this big job, but to get to that thing inside of you, you've got to let go of what's outside of you. Leave your nets. Now, not everybody fishes. I don't. I'd be hopeless out there. But I've had nets, plan B. Everybody's had a plan B, but in my experience, if you have a plan B, you're going to use your plan B. You ever experienced that? One way or another, in the gambling world, they've got what they call hole cards. I've got an ace in the hole. I don't know what else is going to happen with this hand, with this round, with, you can tell I don't even play cards, with this thing we're going to do, this fandango of cards, whatever. But I've got this ace in the hole. In other words, I don't have all of my trust in this thing. I've got a little bit of it reserved. And the mission and the ministry and the life of Jesus Christ and the way that the world gets changed has to do with not holding back, has to do with pushing forward into all of it. And so Jesus says, leave your nets. And it's the thing that in our family we say to each other when somebody's holding back and trusting something outside. When Jesus says, leave your nets, he's saying, stop trusting other powers. There's a commandment about that. Leave your nets is a way to remember to have faith. Leave your nets is what Jesus says when he's saying, you have something inside that is bigger than anything outside. But once again, it is really, really important that he is not saying throw away who you are. He's saying uplift who you are. He's saying, and here's the thing, if you're writing stuff down, this is the thing to write down. Leave your nets, don't leave your ways. Leave your nets, don't leave your ways. There's something about you right now that can change everything if you let it out. That's the message. But for that to be the message, it means that readiness for this huge thing has to come from a different place. I don't know about you, but a lot of people, when they think about readiness, they think about mastery. Being ready for something means I've got it all figured out. Have you ever had it all figured out? I'm looking forward. I'm hoping the day comes. But the truth is that I've never been done with anything. And in fact, I'm going to say this. This is another thing that you might want to write down. If it can be mastered, it is not important. If it can be mastered, it's not important. Because the things that really matter are infinite things. Because God is an infinite thing. If you can get done with it, then maybe it wasn't that big of a deal in the first place. And I don't know about you, but whenever I've gotten done with something, what I discovered is there's a new something to tackle at the other side of it, right? Let's be okay with that. You know that I'm not a sports guy, but I have got Olympic fever. I have been into it, man. I'm into curling even. The whole thing. I love it. I love everything about it. I start caring about what Lindsey Vohn's going to do next. The whole deal. And I love so much about it. I love the Olympic spirit. I love the idea of international cooperation. I love the idea that it's about something bigger. I love the idea that after an event, you notice, I don't know if you've been watching, but after an event, almost always everybody who participated, doesn't matter what country they're from, they all gather together and sometimes they hug and they high five and they all know that something amazing just happened. Even if you win or lose, that doesn't even matter. Part of the Olympic spirit is not about being better than the other person. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. And think about the fact that the things that are going on right now in the Olympics, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe yesterday, were thought to be impossible. You couldn't do that with the human body. I mean, think about the 4-minute mile thing, for example. A real Olympian knows that it's never about being done. And the good ones, even after their event, the next day they're out there practicing because they just want to keep getting better. So mastery is an illusion. It's just about process. It's just about getting better. Being ready for something isn't something that happens at the end. Nobody says ready after they're done. You go to a restaurant, the server doesn't, you guys ready when the check comes? Not one that wants a tip. Ready happens at the beginning of the process. So readiness comes from a different place. Readiness isn't about mastery. Readiness is about what you are open to. Let's ask ourselves, what am I open to in this life? What gets me excited? What grabs my attention? Think about that. And this is important, boys and girls, because, you ready? You get what you're ready for. You get what you're ready for every single time. You get what you're ready for. And you know that. So let's be the kind of people who ask ourselves, who take dominion over that, who become conscious of it. Let us be the kind of people who ask ourselves of our conversations, of our relationships, of our situations, what is this getting me ready for? Because I'm sure to get more of it in my life. I know people that no matter what situation they walk into, they have something that is wrong with it. This is not the appropriate air temperature, outfit, situation. My appetizer was weird. Whatever it is. I know people that's just how they relate to life, but you have to ask yourself, if you go into a situation being dissatisfied, are you ready for satisfaction or are you ready to be more dissatisfied? Think about it. And we all know people, yes, hi. We all know people, this baby is awesome. Hi, sweetheart. We all know people that nothing gets them down. They are being ready to stand up. Ask yourself, what does this get me ready for? Because here's the thing. What you are ready for, you are going to get, because what you are ready for is a prayer. And every prayer is answered all the time. Maybe in ways we don't expect, but every prayer is answered all the time. And that's a big deal. People ask me all the time, how do I pray? How does this God thing work? What's the password to God's clubhouse? How does it go? And there's a lot of great prayers. That invocation that we do, the dedication that we do at the end, the Lord's Prayer, of course, the 23rd Psalm. There's a million important prayers. Learn them. Write them on your heart, so to speak. I love that. But there's no right prayer. God is not interested in a specific combination of words. It's about what's in your heart. So I want to share with you what is in some ways my favorite prayer. And you know it already. You know it because just by being here this morning, we've said it several times. Are you ready? The prayer is 3 words. The words are, and the prayer is, I am ready. Did you know that when you say that, when you sing that, it's a prayer? I am ready. It's got all of the elements of prayer. You know about the I am, God and Moses, when Moses says, what do you call yourself? And God says, I call myself I am. That's what's on the business card. Imagine the size of the business card for those words, I am. You know about that. When I invoke the I am, I'm not talking about the ego of me, the personality of me, the superficiality of me. When I say I am, I mean God is. So when I say I am ready, what I'm saying is, okay, God, bring it on. You got this. When I say I am ready, I'm saying I got this because God's got me. When I say I am ready, that's all I need. Isn't that handy? When I say I am ready, that's all I need. So think about what you're ready for. Think about what you're praying for. I am ready is the prayer that you say when you strap in and the roller coaster starts. I am ready is the thing you say right before you go into the job interview, before you ask for the phone number. I am ready is the thing you say as you start the car. Say it, believe it, understand it, because it will change something for you. I am ready does not say, God, you and me, man, I've got this figured out and you're going to do what I say. Sometimes people's prayers are a laundry list of demands. I am ready just says, okay, God, bring it on. And there's something incredibly beautiful about that because the I am ready prayer will leave you open to surprises. You know, you can tell a lot about a person. You can tell a lot about yourself by how they cope with the unexpected. If only there was a glass of water. Look at that. Every prayer is answered all the time. You can tell a lot about a person, thank you very much. You can tell a lot about a person by the way that they deal with the unexpected. There are people who are just destroyed when the world outside them doesn't match the map that they had already written on the inside. Are you open to the idea that God's got a better idea? Character comes from being open to surprises. Character comes from not knowing. Because if I've got to know how everything's going to go, not only is that completely unrealistic, but it speaks to a lack of faith. Let's work on that. Let's be the kind of people to where if I've got to control every moment, I've got somebody who loves me in my life, even if it's me, that says, you know what, leave your nets. You can't trust the outer things. It's going to go in ways that you don't know because that's how growth happens. That's where faith lives. Here's the thing I want you to know. You get what you're ready for, like we said, but readiness is not a matter of consciousness. In other words, you may not know you're ready for it. This is not about intellectual readiness. This is about spiritual readiness. You may not know what you have set yourself up for. And in fact, if you look at your life, you know that I'm right. You don't know what you've set yourself up for. Thank you, God, because man, if I was in the driver's seat all the time, I see those bumper stickers that say, God is my co-pilot, and I think, maybe let God drive. Get out of the way for a minute and be open to something surprising. And when you think about the hero story, you recognize that so often the people in the story didn't know when the teacher was was going to come. The fishermen weren't looking for Jesus. They were just ready for Jesus. And in that same story that gets echoed over and over again, Luke Skywalker didn't know what was up when he met Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you think Frodo was excited to see Gandalf? And there goes my unbroken streak of J.R.R. Tolkien references. Over and over again. The hero isn't consciously ready. The hero is spiritually ready. So let us be the kind of people who go, you know what? Person in my life who has just taken me out of my comfort zone. You know what? Person in my life who by their positive example or by their negative reinforcement has said to me, you know what? You've got to leave some stuff aside and do things differently. Let me be the kind of person who can say to both of those kinds of teachers, and life is loaded with them. Let me be the kind of person who can say to both of those kind of teachers, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inspiring me with courage and truth. Thank you for showing me what not to do. Thank you for being my teacher, for being my moment here. I get something that I didn't get before, and it took me out of my comfort zone. Thank you for reminding me to leave my nets because you show me how beautiful it is, or you show me how ugly nets are. Either way, let us be the kind of people who can meet the kind of people in our life with gratitude. That's right. Because that amount of faith opens doors. That amount of faith gets you ready for something else. When you really understand that it's okay to just be ready, you recognize that in each and every moment, because there is no accidents in the universe, you recognize that each and every moment you are surrounded by teachers. That's how it works. Look at your life and say thank you. Now, I recognize that that's different. I recognize that that's a new idea for some people because we come from a very rugged individual culture, a very pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of a way. We have that idea that you're supposed to just do it on your own. And like I said, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You ever tried to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Most people don't even have bootstraps. Shoelaces. You ever try to pull yourself up by your shoelaces? It doesn't work. It's a silly thing to say. I mean, back when I was a kid, I was in karate, and sometimes if me and another kid would be messing up, not listening, messing around, the teacher would say, okay, the two of you, go in the corner, and I want you to pull each other up by your sideburns. Just try to get some air. Now, don't try this at home. It's incredibly painful. It's also incredibly impossible. You can't both be up in the air at the same time. It don't work that way. Gravity, not just a good idea. It's the law. You know what I mean? You cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It doesn't make any sense. It's a silly saying. Did you know that that saying actually is from like the 1700s? And back then, when people said it, they meant something impossible. Throw a silver dollar to the moon, you might as well try to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Get that person to listen to you, you might as well try to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's an impossibility, not an achievability. And if you look at the history of our language, it's not until like the 1920s that people started to use it as a thing you're supposed to do, which is silly because you can't do it. We've covered this. Here's the thing I want you to know. Through all of the work that Jenny and I have done with teens, part of our objective is to help teens become healthy adults, right? That's the deal. I don't have a whole lot of advice, actually. My job is just, come here, let me give you a hug, let me make sure you're okay, are you eating? You know, that kind of stuff. That's what Jenny has done all the time. But I've picked up a couple of things. And here's the thing that I have said to my kids, whether they're biologically my kids or whether they're just in the teen group or whatever it is. Here's the piece of advice I have to give. Are you ready? Nobody does anything alone. That's the piece of advice. Nobody does anything alone. Nobody does anything alone. Think about it. It is a stubborn little child that has to do it their own way and doesn't want any help. And it is frustrating to be the other person in the life of that person when you know you can help them. You've been there. You've been in both roles. I have too. Everybody has. But nobody does anything alone. It is a sign of immaturity to try. It is a sign of ultimate maturity in adulthood to say, you know what? Help. Help. The most mature statement in the world maybe is, you know what, I'm teachable. My ego is not wrapped up in knowing everything. I'm open to the idea that there's a better way. There's another way. Nobody does anything alone. Like I said, I recognize that that is a different message than what we get from other places in our culture, and I'm okay with that. If you go to the self-help, motivational, productivity section of, let's say, Barnes & Noble, there are an awful lot of books about how you can do it all yourself and learn how to maximize your to-do list or whatever. Be more productive by waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, making a list and tattooing it on something. Staple this list on your head. And then it's a good conversation starter. And do these other things. And if you try hard enough and work hard enough, you can bend the world to your will, and you can just do it all yourself, and you don't have to count on anybody. I am a rock, I am an island. Boy, that'd be a good song. Anyway, there's a lot of places you can go to get teachers who will tell you to just do it all yourself and just swallow it. Just, hold it in. And you know what? You're good. You're smart. You're strong. If you go down that road, you will get things done. You will put more things on your to-do list. But you know what? You make it harder and harder for people to love you. That's not what you want. If you build a life where it's all about you and all about what you do and it's all out and no in, no sharing, what happens over time is you build this amazing little bubble where it's just you. And there's the whole rest of the universe considering the lilies of the field. There's a whole rest of the universe where the universe takes care of its own and things work out. And then there's me all by myself just doing it my own way. It's not healthy. And it is also impossible to prosper that way because I have cut myself off from the flow. But the good news is, although it may not feel like good news at the time, sooner or later, easy way or hard way, God will pop that bubble for you. And I have been there. Do not try this at home. Sooner or later, easy way or hard way, God will pop that bubble and say, you know what? Our Father is a thing. You know what? We are all in this together. You know what? Nobody does any of this alone. And that is a beautiful, scary, awesome, amazing day when that happens. All of a sudden, we realize the goal is not for me to get a new car or some kind of success where I can be up on a mountaintop and everybody can just look at me. That's not the goal. It sells self-help books, but it ain't the goal. The goal is service. The goal is sharing. The goal is loving somebody else. The goal is giving something to somebody else. The goal is family. And when I give to that, something changes. Now, I recognize that we're not awfully prepared for that in our culture, but I got to tell you, just like the Master told the disciples, there is something about you right now that can change the world. Leave your nets, not your ways. Stop trusting things outside of yourself and start trusting that this, whatever it is inside of you, can change the world. Look at your life. Decide. There's something that you love. There's something that you do. There's something that gets your attention right now that is applicable to something bigger. Do a little archaeology on yourself. Now, we've talked about doing that out in the world and looking at the idea behind the thing out there. Do it to your heart. There's something in you that can be applied to changing everything outside of you. And that is the beginning of love. That is the beginning of prosperity. And yes, boys and girls, that is the beginning of freedom. Because, after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you very much.